Our next segment here. The market size of DevSecOps is predicted to grow at a CAGR of 29.53% by 2027. To give you the insights on this exponential growth, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Nikhil Ratnaparkhi, Senior Director, Enterprise Architecture, Lowe, India. Santhanagopalan Padmanabhan, Senior R&D Director, GreenLake Cloud Services and Solutions, HPE. Anjeneya Dubey, CTO, Cloud Infrastructure, Site Reliability Engineering and DevSecOps, Honeywell. Minaz Kotian, Senior Specialist Database, Publicis, Sapient. And Prashant Khare, Head Digital Native, Cloud Engineering, Oracle, India. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be here and talk of what we are going to actually conversate about. So I think we should move to the discussion directly. Okay, so DevSecOps is actually getting immensely popular nowadays. And what do you think is the main reason behind this? And is this popularity permanent or will fade away over time? Anjeneya, this question is for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can call me Anj. I know my name is a tongue twister for many. DevSecOps, right, as the name suggests, you have dev, you have security, and then you have operations. In traditional, typical software development, if you see, there were different teams that were involved. There were dev teams that we do that gets involved into developing the product. Then you will have the operations team would require a lot of other things to do the operations piece. And as Jen then Sanjay was talking about, we got to innovate. We got to innovate really, really fast. And if you look at the industry, I mean, if you really want to survive as a company, you got to build these cool new tools, features, products rapidly into the market. And the only way you could do this is by streamlining, fast-pacing your product development. The only way to do that today is following this methodology of DevSecOps, which is bringing all aspects of product development into the product development, which means that you work very closely with the product engineers. The things that you really have to focus on is the three big pillars. The way I look at the whole software development life cycle is that there is the product development side, which is creation of value side on the left-hand side. And then you have the customers who are consuming your product on the right-hand side. And then you have a big bridge that connects them, the software development and the consuming of the software that we build. And the DevSecOps is the bridge that connects the two. And the three big pillars, the four big pillars that I see that are holding that bridge where the software kind of flows through are agility, which is how fast you develop your code. And how quickly you can develop with an experience that all developers love. I mean, we are all developers over here, and when you go interact with the tools that you have to kind of go do development, you would want to be very easy, and with generative AI now in our hands, you would want some of those things to be with you so that you can use them, augment your development, and do things faster. So agility is very, very important, which is bringing all these different tools, technologies that help developers have a very good experience while they're developing, but most importantly, developing at a fast pace. And then, of course, the quality side of things, which is, though, I mean, quality is extremely important when you build code. Traditional software development, quality cycles used to take a lot of time, and you don't want that at all. Third big pillar is, again, reliability, which is, how reliable your software is, because the scale at which we operate today, I mean, if you look at India, when I was here back in 2006, I would have to go 5 different places to get things. And now I have Zepto, and everybody was like, oh my goodness, using this. And I'm so happy, and the UPI payments have completely changed. I don't live here, so I don't use UPI. I did not use UPI as much, but I come over here, I see UPI, at pretty much every vendor, and look at the scale at which we have to operate. The only way you could build these kind of software is by keeping reliability at the center of the product development. Again, security, you have to, the other speaker talked about that as well, which is you have to build a highly secure systems, because more exposure you have, bigger problems you would have, and so on. So it's very important to have all this. With this now, the only way, like I said, you could do all this is by adopting DevSecOps. So DevSecOps is going to be here. It's here. Any and every developer that gets involved into product development needs to understand a different aspect of DevSecOps or site reliability engineering to get going. And if you look at, I asked just generative AI, in the morning today, that how many DevSecOps open jobs we have today. And I was surprised to see the numbers. It was 164,000 open jobs in the world, and 19,000 just in India. And around 2,000 were open just this month. So, you can just, and just in India, 2,000 jobs open this month in July, which is you can see this, how much it is, adopted, and how fast we are moving. The teams, that are building these softwares need these skills and so on. So it's just awesome to see.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anj. You've set up, the entire context for our audience right. Prashant, I'll move to you now. How adoption of microservices and cloud-native apps are strengthening the DevSecOps for organizations? As Anj also mentioned, how businesses are, these days using, and how we've already created a stir in the market.
Sure, definitely. Is it on? Okay, great. So microservice. First, let's talk about microservices, right? So today, normally, whatever apps we are using in the mobile phone or whatever applications we are using on our desktops, all of them are microservices, right? And that's what has been the design of any cloud-native application development, right? Everybody is aware of software delivery lifecycle, right? And I just want you guys to imagine a line, right? On the left side of the line is your code, which you develop. And on the right side, your code is running in form of an application in production, right? Now think about it. The more you lean towards the left side, it's easier to make change. It's less expensive because you're more near to the code, you're not in production. And the more you go towards the right, it becomes difficult, it's more and more catastrophic if something goes wrong. So it's very, very important to embrace security at the code layer, which is towards the left side. So that's a fundamental of it, of the DevSecOps. Now, DevOps by nature is very modular. The microservices are very modular, which means that you're not developing everything as a whole, whereas you're distributing everything within a service. You're breaking down everything into individual services. So what you're doing is basically you're making sure that one thing does not impact other, or things can be version controlled, things can be developed, enhanced independently. Now put that into perspective of security, right? Now what do we want from security? That you want to reduce the blast radius. If something goes wrong, and it does go wrong more often than we like to think about, right? We do not want it to impact other functions of my applications, right? That's very important. So that basically makes it more important that we embrace security as part of my development life cycle. Now, what are the benefits, right? Why microservices are something if you use DevSecOps, and how they are strengthening the DevSecOps of an organization, right? Security has always been thought as a layer, right? Which is running outside the DevOps, which means that we have a security operations team which is doing everything that they're supposed to do. They are defining policies, they are auditing, they are doing pen testing and everything, but they're not in the system. They are still at the fence, right? Now, with DevSecOps, we are bringing them as a part of a design process. We are bringing them as a part of a coding exercise itself. So what benefit do we get out of this, right? First of all, I already mentioned that you're reducing the blast radius, because if your one service gets compromised, it does not impact the other ones. The second thing is scalability. Normally, because you're building these microservices for scale, they can scale very seamlessly at a very fast pace. It's all about agility and speed. Security is something which has always been something which is an afterthought. So by embracing DevSecOps, you can scale your security infrastructure as your microservice increases. So you get the full production from the start itself. Second thing is when you talk about immutable infrastructure, right? Because right now all the microservices are deployed in a way that they are just configuration file. So they are in a readable format. They're not something which is changing on the fly. So that basically makes it more easier to avoid any drift in your configurations. So with these things, making it more simpler, making it, bringing security as a part of our code, which means that you can control aspects, and in case you detect any failures, you can fix it independently without impacting any other system. These are some of the things how microservices are basically providing a greater benefits for strengthening the organization which is using DevSecOps.
Thank you, Prashant. I think it's changing the market entirely for businesses, as well as it's somewhere or the other affecting the business objective that one has. So thank you so much for that. I will now move to Nikhil. We all agree that the role of developers has evolved in the past few years, especially in the DevSecOps domain. How important do you think is monitoring security threats at the very beginning of a life cycle?
Very good question. I'll take it a little different, right? I don't know, there was a statement in movie Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility, right? As an engineer, we are building things for a customer. And a customer is me, customer is anybody who is using my application. And it's my responsibility to make sure that any information which is coming into my system is secured. It's not available to anybody else who is not supposed to see it, right? That's important. Now, how it impacts, if something like this happens, how it impacts the business and other people, right? For an organization, biggest impact is financial and legal, because one of the example in my previous experience, one of the security engineer told me is, if a security threat is identified, the first impact that happens is on the financial market, where stock prices go down, right? Assume 5% for $1 billion company, it is $50 million, right? Big impact. Any organization will take a big amount of time to recover from it. Second impact is on the lives of the customers whose data has been compromised, right? So you never know who is going to use it. So very important. So again, legal is another angle which comes in, where regulatory authorities keep a very tight watch on some of these activities. And if something like this to happen, me as an organization will have to engage legal, we'll have to engage some fines which may come up. Very big reason why some of these things have to be taken up first. And that is why what he mentioned, right? Shift left, or doing things right when I'm writing something is one, easier to fix. Blast radius, as he talked about, is small. Simpler to make changes at the time when I'm developing, rather than, once the application is developed and you don't know how many services needs to modify if I have to make a change. The last thing as an organization when I'm delivering something, right, is on the delivery timelines itself. Every time, especially if you're working in a consulting company, right, everything is governed by time. For that matter, in a product company also, there are timelines which I look at, saying I have probably committed something to my investor, saying I will give it something in a month's time, and if something I identify at the last moment, my timelines get impacted, right? So the delivery time gets impacted. So it's always important, me as an engineer, to look at that, how I can identify some of these flaws sooner, so that I can fix it right at the moment when it is identified, rather than a penetration tester or an external threat actor identifying this and then we fixing it, right? So these are some of the things very important when it comes to as an engineer to keep in mind that when I'm writing something, how it is impacting the lives of my users, what kind of information I'm collecting, why am I collecting, and what am I going to do with it, and how it is going to impact me as well as my users, customers, whosoever it is who is going to use that information.
Thanks, Nikhil. Any tips you would want to share with our developers that who are watching us here right now, that how they can actually do this, be a little more conscious when it comes to taking a call?
Right. So I think we talked about testing our applications beforehand, right? So there are quite a few things which are available. So if you're using code repositories like GitHub or something, or you're using GitLab, there are a lot of static code analyzers which are available. Right at the time you're developing, you can run through these code analyzers to identify threats which are available, which can be fixed. And these rules which run through the code and analyze are continuously getting updated because a new threat is always coming up every day, right? So very important to run through these as part of your build process itself. So every time you commit a code, you run a build at the end of the day or n number of times in a day to identify if there are any issues that are there. Second thing, as a process of DevSecOps, don't let something move forward if you're not happy enough or you're not comfortable enough to say that yes, my code is secure enough to move forward, right? So build those gates as part of your process so that your code doesn't move forward if it does not pass through certain security gates, right? Now moving forward, that when I've developed something, how do you know it is secure? Just because I have done static code analysis doesn't mean it is secure, right? So you can actually run through some of the penetration testing as part of the process and identify some of the issues that may not have been caught by static code analysis as well. So there are these processes which exist, which should be part of your daily life cycle, daily routine to make sure that we are looking at these things, identifying problems, critical issues, high severity issues should never pass, right? This is what is an important aspect for me as an engineer, when I'm writing this microservice or a piece of code, that it is going through these type of tests beforehand and I can catch them, identify them and fix them as soon as they are found.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. That helps. I will now move to Santhan. We've all discussed about how it's, when it comes to organizations being and creating an impact, the product life cycle that we look at, the cautions that we, should take. Talking about the areas of skill sets, what are the skill sets that you think are required to excel in the DevSecOps right now?
Thanks. So before I jump into the skill sets part of it, a quick thing on the need of DevSecOps, right? I think Anji talked about it very well. But if you go to 1980s, manufacturing industry was grappling with the same problem of, let's use a lead time, right? You get a raw material into the company to come out as a finished product, it used to take about a couple of months. So you book a car and then it'll take 2 months, you have to wait for a car to come out, right? That's a lead time. And even the output was probably fraught with errors in terms of the quality of the end deliverable was not what it was desired. So how did they solve it? Lean, Six Sigma, right? Those are the type of things which used to be the popular thing in 80s. What was Lean and Six Sigma for the manufacturing industry is what is Agile and DevSecOps for us. So basically that's what helps you. So it's, basically bring down the amount of time it takes to develop a software and for it to be installed and productive at the customer size. When I started coding in the 90s, it used to take 6-month product releases, right? That was fine. That was acceptable at that point in time. Now if you go tell a customer, you ask for a feature, you tell him I wait for 6 months, he'll show you the door, right? And the other thing is in terms of, we want to try some things, we are not sure, right? You do something and you give it to him 6 months down the line, by the time his requirements would have changed, right? He may want totally something different. So you need to be able to quickly give something to a customer, try it out, he gives you feedback, you iterate over it, that's it. And that's possible only with DevSecOps today. So it's no longer a nice to have, a cool thing to say, I'm doing DevSecOps. The companies that didn't do Lean and Six Sigma in 80s went belly up. Same thing is going to happen with software industry. So that's just one thing to say the importance of DevSecOps. Now going on to the skill sets. skill sets, it's not about just going to a class and pick something and I'll do DevSecOps coming from tomorrow, from Monday, right? That's not going to happen, right? There is a combination of, one, the mindset, it's a people, process, tool stuff, right? So the people's mindset needs to change, right? Traditionally, it has been said that development is cool. Okay, I'll develop a bunch of complex stuff and then I'll not worry about someone else will take care of a deployment, right? I'll throw it across the wall, create a bunch of manual and some deployment guy will take it and spend about 2 months trying to deploy it with migration from previous release to next release. It will take 2 months because you are benchmarked, or as a developer, you're not accountable for how fast is it to get it deployed in the production. That was one problem, the way we were structured. Development was considered cool and strategic, but IT was somewhere in the periphery, right? Security was more an afterthought, right? When everything is done, it was all running in the perimeter of a company's interns inside the company. So you protect the external perimeter and you thought it's all good. These days, very little software runs inside the perimeter of the company. It all runs in the cloud, so security becomes much more important. So things have changed. So the first thing is basically the mindset needs to change, that it can't be development alone. So you need to bring in the developer, you need to bring in the IT ops, you need to bring in the security, all in one go from day one. So you design with deployment in mind. You design saying that is the software, can it be upgraded tomorrow with minimal downtime for the customer, right? In terms of security analysis, can't be done when the software is developed. Is all my AP communication happening in a secure ways, the strength of the ways, how quickly am I going to cycle the keys that I'm going to use in production. So all those things needs to happen in day one. So the mindset needs to change. That's number one. Then comes the process. So DevSecOps is fine, but it's a very loosely worded thing. What is that you want to achieve with DevSecOps? You need to set some goals. Okay, I want to bring the lead time from months to weeks, right? I want to reduce the number of security incidents that happens after I deployed software. So be clear about what you want to achieve with DevSecOps, right? Then the best way is you put metrics, right? You start measuring things, and that's what will drive the changes in people's behavior. So what are the things that you want to measure? Maybe the lead time, right? How long the development that I'm doing, how long does it take to go into production? If it's six weeks, that's bad. If what I develop today goes into production, maybe 1 week from now, that's cool. Again, different companies may be in different way in the maturity model, but you start measuring it and then slowly start setting goals to move to the right direction. So definitely lead time is one. The other thing is, what is the size of churn, the code, right? Typical thing, good thing is don't do big bang code changes, right? Do smaller changes, deploy it, keep iterating through that, right? How many times you're going to doing a deployment in a month? If you're doing deployment once in a month and doing a big bang change, not good thing. If you're deploying once in a week, that's a good thing because it reduces the risk, right? Even the blast radius might be less because you're doing smaller changes. Then you need to measure metrics like maybe mean time to repair. If a problem happens in the code, it will happen. Accidents happen, right? But how quickly can you restore? Maybe within probably 5 minutes of the problem happening, right? That's a good thing to have. If it takes maybe hours to deploy or even days, then you are in for trouble. So start measuring those from a process perspective, metrics, and that will drive change within the behavior of the people. And the last thing is tools. Tools is more the last thing why I'm talking about is there are a bunch of CI/CD tools which are available today. GitLab, Jenkins, Argo CD, or any of those things. Pick what you choose. Different people have different choices what they want to do and other stuff. Bring in those static code analysis stuff that you definitely do, the penetration testing that he talked about. Make sure that all of those is built in using your tools. And the last thing is also the deployment, right? There are deployment tools which are available which will tell you that audit if I have deployed it in the right way, have I left some holes which can make me famous tomorrow, right? Will I be in headlines? So a systematic approach when coming to the skill sets part I talk about, I know I took it slightly in a different direction, is skill sets is not about going into training and you have all this stuff, right? You need to think holistically from a perspective of people, process, tools to be able to successfully embrace and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any suggestions to our audience when it comes to having that precision of, picking up the skill sets here, Santhan? Anything that you would want to suggest?
Yeah, in terms of skill sets, I would say See, there are things that I think Prashant talked about it, right? Microservices, right? You need to develop things. These are basic software engineering stuff that you need to pick up. There used to be concept like cohesion and coupling, right? What should be within a particular microservice or what should be in another microservice, right? You should not do more than what a microservice should do. You need to have API compatibility. So API should be version, right? When you deploy something, you need to make sure that you can go into V2, V3 of it, but your V1 and V2 should continue to work because other microservices may be calling that, right? So picking up certain things like 12-factor practices, there are enough things in terms of how well-defined design patterns which are available for microservices. Picking those skill sets would definitely be a good thing. And some of the CI/CD practices, right, in general, become comfortable with some of the tools which are available, security profiling tools. Security is a big domain in itself, what to look for in terms of static thing, the penetration testing and other stuff. The other thing which is important is about the open source tools, right? None of us develop any software without using any open source tools today. So making sure that if there are some security vulnerabilities, CVEs which are available on those open source, first secure them. Otherwise you will be famous because of their problems, right? So I think it's a more broad set of things, not just on your software, the third party stuff, the software development thing, the tools and other stuff is a skill set that people need to pick up to be successful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we've discussed about the organizations, the microservices, the skill sets, and how the entire evolution is happening when it comes to DevSecOps. Minaz, I would like to come to you now. Let's talk about what the future holds, right? We're talking about the current state, but what does the future look like for DevSecOps, for developers and the IT security market as well? Because Santhan clearly mentioned security is one of the most important things, right?
Right. And first of all, congratulations TechGig for the decade completion of 10 years, and welcome you all. So I really appreciate your time here. I know today is Sunday, but still, this shows that how eager you are to learn something new. That's really a positive sign, right? And regarding the future of DevSecOps, developers or IT security professionals, see. And you just gave the statistics now, right? In India, how many jobs there are, in the global, how many jobs there are. But the future is very bright and full of opportunities, right? Now, the way the technology is advancing nowadays, evolving nowadays, and the data being used over the net, and the infrastructures, endpoints being exposed, right? So security is a big concern. And DevSecOps has to be proven a significant game changer here. So, adopting a shift-left technology where, security is being tested at the earliest stage of development, that has really helped and collaborated developers and security professionals and created an environment where these testings can be taken care early in the development stage. And what I have seen with these collaborations, a top talented professionals are ready in the industries, right? The developers now understand the security challenges, right? And the security professionals understand the development requirement, right? So this kind of talents are really a new rules that has been created now. And also with these cloud technologies, right? We have major vendors like AWS, Google, and Microsoft, right? They have their own architectures, tools, and the way they monitor, and so they have come up with a learning path, right? Certification course. So the security professionals or DevSecOps professionals go ahead and enable themselves for their cloud-specific tools to learn and grow. And so not only they, design and come up with the best practices for the cloud-based application in those vendors' cloud space, but also they started partnering with the architectures to implement security in the design phase itself, right? So and the way and also they started partnering in designing the security best practices so that they can protect the data, they can control the access, right? So these are the current new emerging roles that is coming up, and I think this is really a best opportunity for all of us. to grab and upskill ourselves, right? I mean, I would say this, why not automation and AI-driven tools? That is this is playing a crucial role in software development now. So with this AI-driven tool, you can go ahead and start security testings, code analysis, and you can also, monitor the threat and detect it and control it. So, I mean, all of us here, we all spoke about DevSecOps, how security is playing a major role in this industry now. So, to add into this, I think the future is bright and promising.
Thank you so much, Minaz. I think I had a wonderful time. Before we wrap up, I would like to have a closing remark from each one of you. Prashant, let's begin from you, please.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to share this, because right now if you see the way we do programming, the way we do coding itself is changing, right? All these emerging technology like generative AI, we have like code GPTs in the world that can probably write the whole code for you. You can put a problem statement and you can put the right code. And that basically makes security even more important, because all these public models have actually been trained on public data. They might or might not be relevant to your objective. So you really have to be able to audit that. And another example that I want to give that probably every one of us have faced is, let's say there's a security breach happened. Let's say there's an outage in your application. Now, how many times do we struggle to find that where the problem is? So DevOps basically provides a good methodology. It's more of more like a methodology, right? Where you are changing the way you think. It's more of a culture than the tools and technology, because there are tons of tools out there, right? But what you need to achieve is that how quickly you can identify where the problem is. You need to be able to monitor it. You need to be able to fall back onto working code, and you should be able to prevent it from happening in the future, right? And that's something which all the DevSecOps is. As you mentioned, that it's not something which is a good to have. It's something which everybody has to have, and developer productivity is something which is centered around this. And I get asked about that, or I basically being in Oracle, and I speak to a lot of companies who are adopting cloud, who are adopting DevSecOps, and this is one of the most common discussion. How do we improve developer productivity? How do we integrate security as a part of the code? And what are the different tools that can help us? So yeah, definitely from the future is good in that aspect, yeah.
Thank you so much, Prashant. Nikhil?
Yeah, so I think a lot of things have been covered. So one thing which I see, and from our own experience, right, we have spent last 20 years in the industry. One thing which has been constant is change, right? Things change, and they are going to keep changing in the next years to come, right? So as an individual, be ready for that change. Be ready to learn, be curious, keep an open eye in terms of what's happening around you. That's an important aspect. The more comfortable you are with the change, probably that's an opportunity, any new opportunity coming, it's there for you to grab, right? So that's an important aspect for anything that we do, right? I mean, not only development, security or anything, it's for general development or my future progression. I believe that it's an important thing that, I should be ready for that change. Second thing which he talked about is having that culture within the organization, right? Culture doesn't get built overnight, right? It's a process where the culture gets built. So work towards that, building that culture wherever you work, right? Say, it can be any ways that you can find out. Maybe participating in some of these type of events where you will meet other friends, colleagues who can talk about their experience, and that's how you learn, right? So be open, be curious, and be ready for the change.
Thank you, Nikhil. Minaz?
Yeah, so I mean, with this cutting edge technologies where we stand today, right? Time to market is very important, right? So we all promise something to our customers and we see that we are delivering it. And there is lots of competition is going on. So staying ahead with the technology, upskilling ourselves, and understanding the customer expectations are what I see is the main, this is the culture that you can grow and evolve and help your team to grow.
Thank you so much, Minaz. Anj?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, it was great being here. But like everybody has been talking about, I mean, and the way Jayant summed it up, innovation is extremely important. No matter where you are, what business, what work, what job you're doing, you have to keep thinking about the future. You have to keep collaborating. You have to work hard. And most importantly, like I said, I mean, if you have to innovate, you have to think beyond. And thinking beyond is extremely critical. And he was talking about, why India is kind of lagging, still lagging. We have still a lot of work. I mean, if you look at some of these SaaS platforms and the products that have come up in the last 5 to 10 years in India, and the global market is extremely huge, which tells that, we are in the right direction. We just have to keep thinking about innovation and DevSecOps, no matter what new philosophy, discipline comes in, tomorrow you have to just keep innovating, keep working hard, keep learning new things. Things is going to change. You have to use all the tools that are available, any and everything that is available to you to kind of keep the needle forward is extremely, extremely important. So use your tools, use your skills, and just keep learning is something that I do it myself, and I suggest everyone, especially, if you look at, like I said, I mean, if you look at India, there is a lot of work that is still going on. We are still under construction. I mean, not just the road in Bangalore, but overall, I mean, we are under construction and something that we are rapidly moving forward. So all of us are extremely, extremely important to just keep doing what we do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anj. Santhan?
So one thing that just came to me on the DevSecOps stuff, at least one other thing that I tried within my team is the engineer that develops the code also operates it and fixes it, right? So you don't, if a problem comes in, he deploys it in a night, problem happens, middle of the night, he'll be woken up. So he gets a PagerDuty call and he gets it up and solve it. So I saw it in one of the places where the engineer was awake for 3 or 4 nights, and 1 week the code was rock solid as it could be. So I think that's saying, write a code as though you're going to maintain it, right? The other thing is software development is not a science, it's a piece of art. The code should look like really something when you look at it, it should look like that's something that you love, that what you have created. I mean, you're living in a very fantastic world. I remember writing my first AA program in Lisp and Prolog. I don't know if even those languages are relevant these days. In 90s, solving this 8 queens problem in the chessboard, or how do you do all this stuff. I mean, it was a lull for about 30 years. We did not have enough compute power for AI to be a reality. I mean, you're living in a time where AI is coming to fruition. A lot of those cool technologies are coming in, and things changes every 6 months. A lot of cool stuff to learn and make the most out of it, and be open, right, in terms to embrace the change. Change is something that's going to be constant. And all the best to you guys.
Thank you. Can I please have a huge round of applause? Thank you so much.